ladies and gentlemen. We are back, Chat with a Rat, episode 7, with Mr. Art Zager. Say hello, Art.
Hello, Art.
I will start out by asking you the same question that I ask everyone first. How long have you been doing comedy for?
I've been doing comedy about 9 years on and off for the most part. Took about a year break in that interim, but for the most part about 9 years.
Like a year total, or a year all at one time?
Like about a year total. Stopped doing it for about so and so amount of months.
Okay.
Got back into it.
Yeah. All right. So what was it like whenever you were doing comedy? You were doing comedy in Lakeland not long ago?
Yeah, started off just doing random open mics in Lakeland.
What was it like back then? Was there any of the same people still around back then?
Not really that I see now, post pandemic, but it would be a lot of the same people beforehand. James Skinner was a guy that I met early on who he's actually the one who gave me the best bit of advice when I first started off.
Okay.
There was Forrest Cunningham. He was when I pre-pandemic, he was pretty consistent.
Yeah. I remember when he was doing it.
Yeah. But for most part, a lot of the guys going to the Lakeland open mics now, they're mostly people who usually either started post-pandemic or moved to Lakeland around the same time that the pandemic was starting, that sort of thing. Of course, Dino's he's always going to be around. He was there from the start. He's always going to be there.
Yeah. I know. When I asked him on the last podcast how long he'd been doing comedy, he said he remembered doing comedy. What did he say? Back in the early '90s or something. I was like, wow. Okay. What places had open mics back then?
When I first started off, it was really just there was this place called Tony's Studio B that was in downtown Lakeland.
Yeah, I remember that name. I don't think I ever went there.
Yeah, it was a little wine and I want to say it was a charcuterie type restaurant, but they also did little dishes and stuff like that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a pretty cool place. It's where I met a lot of the musician friends that I still hold dear to this day, Anisette. That's when I first really got to know her. Casey Brown, I first met him there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I know him. Yeah.
Absolutely love me some Casey Brown.
Whatever happened to him?
He is currently living, I believe he's still in Washington.
Okay,
yeah.
So he moved away.
Yeah, he moved a couple years back, I want to say.
I used to see him around all the time.
Oh yeah, last time I saw him, he came back into town a few months back, I believe, and yeah, it's great seeing him.
Right on.
Yeah, he used to host over there at Tony's Studio B sometimes, and when I first started out, I was doing I hadn't found out who Art Zager as a comedian was, so I was just trying random shit to see what stuck.
Right.
And started off trying to be a Bill Hicks or George Carlin type, where I was just doing very political stuff.
Right.
Found out that wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And then I tried doing character stuff, where it's I pretend to be someone else on stage and stuff like that, and it's okay, this isn't for me. But
right.
Casey loved all of it for some reason.
Right on. It's always good to have those people that no matter what you're doing, they love it.
Yep. And yeah, it was pretty much just that, and then found Pink Piano just by accident, pretty much. Just a friend of mine was like, hey, I'm looking at this place that does open mics, you want to come down and check it out? And I was like, okay, yeah. Then just started doing comedy there.
Okay. Yeah, I remember Pink Piano having open mics a long time ago. I remember... I think maybe I was just hanging out at Slammers or something, and then I just happened to go over there for some reason, and they were having an open mic, and I was like, what the hell is this? Because there was just some dude up there singing, and music that was playing on over the radio or whatever, and I was like, what is this? It was really weird, but so I guess they've been doing it for a while there.
Oh yeah, I think I started.
Well, because it used to be like DC's, right?
Yeah, it was a DC's.
Did they
one
do open
point,
mics back then?
I believe they might have, because there's this other guy. He and I did stand up for a little bit together, named Moni. He is fucking fantastic. I'm trying to get him to do some more stuff, hopefully. But he had done some comedy at DC's when, like before it became Pink Piano.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
A little before my time doing comedy, unfortunately.
Yeah. Has it been that long since it was DC's?
Yeah.
I guess Pink Piano's been around for a while.
Yeah, because I think I first started doing comedy there like 2015, 2016 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, let's see here. Why did you decide that you wanted to try to do comedy in the first place?
Honestly, like, when I first graduated high school, I had decided, like, okay, I'm just gonna try to be a writer, but I had always loved stand-up comedy, like, even when I was younger, like, I would watch a lot of stand-up specials just for fun, just to be like, okay, I have nothing to do, I'm gonna watch this random special from this comedian, like,
Right.
that's how I found guys like Ed Byrne, Jimmy Carr, Billy Connolly, guys that, like, really big in the UK, but didn't,
Yeah.
But so I was writing this one story, and I had gotten a few scripts done, and I had heard like a lot of writers that had said like, oh, I got my start in stand up, and then when I got further with it, I got writing jobs out of it. So I was like, oh, I'll try stand up just to see how, like, just to kind of get me into writing.
Right.
And then it worked out that, like, by the third year into doing comedy, like, I was a comedian who was, like, just happened to write occasionally.
Right.
Like, I developed a completely different viewpoint on what I should be doing with myself. Like,
You just reminded me. Somebody was telling me the other night, I can't remember who it was. It was outside of Pink Piano. Somebody was telling me that you have like a comic book that you made. Is that true?
well, not really. Like, I wrote out there's this comic book idea that I had, that I wrote out the script for the first issue,
Okay.
but I never actually got it, like, drawn out or anything like that, or got anyone to illustrate it. But I had shown the script to a few people and had gotten some pretty good feedback from it.
That's what they were saying. They said that they hadn't seen it themselves, but somebody had told them that it was like really good or something.
Yeah, like there's this one friend of mine that he was one of the first people I showed it to, and literally anytime he gets drunk around people that he's just met, he's just like, yo, you gotta hear about this thing my friend Art came up with. Like,
right on. Well, I don't know. Maybe I can draw, like, illustrate it for you. I do a little bit of art here and there. Let's see. So who are your biggest influences, would you say, for your comedy?
Well, the biggest ones are, like, you got your obvious, like, your George Carlins, your Richard Pryors, your Lenny Bruce's. I'm a really big fan of Emo Phillips. Emo is probably the guy who most inspired the way that I like to tell my jokes and the kind of misdirection that I like to put into most of the jokes that I tell, where you think that it's going to be one thing, but it's completely different.
Right. Yeah, I remember you talking about him the other night. Maybe when we were driving Spitfire or something.
Yeah.
I remember you talking about him the other day. All right. I mean, yeah, that's kind of what I try to do with my jokes in a way too. Is like I always try to like make the joke look like it's going this way, and then it's actually going this way.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
yeah. I think that always works really well.
It really does. Like, even if it's like, oh, I knew that was going to go somewhere else. It's never like, that's not the place I knew it was going to go.
Right.
I knew it was going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So since you've been doing comedy for a while now, what's the biggest show that you've ever been a part of, like that you got to perform on?
That's kind of hard to say because like there are a couple of because there are a couple shows that like it was like a full audience of like a bar situation, but the audience wasn't there for comedy per se. Like
Yeah.
and there was this one place called the Blueberry Patch where it was mostly just musicians, and then they had set aside like 15 minutes for a poet, and the poet went up there, did one poem, and then left the stage. And they're like, okay, if someone else wants to do it, to do 10 minutes, they can jump on the stage. First person to jump off gets to do something. And I was right next to the stage, so I just jumped up, did about 5 minutes to absolutely nothing, and then I ended with like this comedy rap that I had written, and everybody loved it, and it was
I've
like,
heard you do. I don't know if it's the same one, but I've heard you do that before.
yeah, right. And it was one of those feelings like, because there must have been like at least 70, 80 people, maybe a little more. Hearing that many people like applaud something that I did, that was the moment when I was like, that was the exact moment when I was like, okay, the writing thing I might need to put on the back burner for right now. This is this is great. This is a fantastic feeling.
Mm-hmm. But it's always a really good feeling whenever you have like the whole room laughing. It's great.
Oh yeah.
So, do you remember, what would you consider the worst that you've ever bombed?
Ooh. See, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about the worst that I've ever bombed because it might get you kicked off. But let's just say it involved me including a thing I shouldn't have included in a room full of people that did not appreciate what I included. That's all I'm gonna say on that.
Oh no! Did you get beat up?
No, I didn't get beat up, luckily, but it was complete silence, and then I literally got played off stage before I even got a chance to go past it. Like, yeah, it was a lesson for anybody who ever wants to try doing stand-up. Don't just randomly decide you're going to do stand-up on acid. It's not going to work out for you.
Yeah, probably not the greatest idea.
Plan it out first.
So, do you ever, like, knowingly write out a joke, knowing that it's going to go over people's heads?
Sort of, kind of, like, the way that I kind of view the way that I write jokes is that if one person gets it, that's great. And if 10 people get it, that's amazing. I love it.
Right.
Like, there was a period of time where during the 2016 election where I was at Pink Piano, and every week I would do like a 5 to 15 minute bit on 3 presidents at a time and just come up with like different jokes about all of them and stuff like that. And it was always very hit or miss because it's like, oh, I don't fucking know about John Quincy Adams. What are you talking to me about?
Right. Yeah, I heard that you used to do something like that where like you would pull, or you'd have somebody else pull like a president's name out of a hat or something, like, and you just start doing comedy about it or something. Yeah,
it eventually became that because after I did the 2016 bit, I was like, how can I still incorporate it into it? And then my friend Winter, he had this idea of like, what if you just had people pick a random number and then you do a joke about that president? And I was like, that's a fucking great idea, man.
Yeah, that's and that's honestly insane that you know all like that much about the presidents.
Yeah. I don't even know how it started, but like ever since I was like 5, I've always been the kid who knew about every president. Like, one of my earliest memories is when I was in kindergarten. They were teaching about like the different coins and stuff like that, and they went over like, oh, who's on the penny? Oh, Abraham Lincoln. Who's on this and this?
Right.
When it got to the dime, nobody knew the answer, and everybody just looked at me, and I just like timidly said, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and they were just like, yep.
That's funny. So do you ever like dumb down your jokes?
Not really dumbed down, like, in the sense of, like, because I try to shorten some of my jokes just to be like, oh, just to keep it more compact, to keep their attention, but there's some jokes when it's like, if it goes over some people's head, it goes over some people's head, like,
So if you think of a joke and you think, like, probably a lot of people aren't going to get this, you're just like, that's fine.
Yeah, like, I'm trying to think, like, because if I'm being objective, there's probably been a joke that I've dumbed down, like, in a sense, but I can't think of it, like, because even, like, some of the stuff I do, like, about, like, Stonewall, I do a joke about a Civil War general who gave his arm, his arm got a separate military funeral after he died.
Yeah, I've heard you do that.
And so and in relation, I tell a joke about Lorena Bobbitt, and so there's a lot of times where nobody understands that, but I'm just like, ahead of your time.
Yeah, probably, especially nowadays. Like, probably the younger crowd has no clue who that is.
Yeah.
I've learned that too, doing jokes just about, because I grew up watching, like, 90s, 80s, and 90s sitcoms and stuff,
Yeah.
So, I'll throw stuff like that into my jokes sometimes, like, say something about, like, Screech Powers, or, like, Roger from Doug, or something like that.
Exactly.
And no one, like, anytime there's, like, younger people there, I can tell they're always like, who the hell is that? I was like, you guys don't know, you've never seen Saved by the Bell? Like, I don't know, it's crazy. But I guess it's just, we're just getting old.
Oh yeah, that's all it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, like, cause like anyone from like my, like that's around my age is definitely gonna know who Lorena Bobbitt was, because that was huge.
Yeah.
It was almost like O.J. Simpson or something. It's huge. But yeah, probably a lot of these younger kids don't have any idea who that is. Let's see here. What is your what is like your biggest goal, or not your biggest goal, but like your dream goal to achieve with comedy?
I honestly can't answer that question. Like, I never really thought, because usually, like, even to this day, most of my thoughts have always drifted to, like, and then I'll keep doing comedy because I love doing comedy, and eventually I'll get this writing thing figured out, and then, so it's like all my focus, like, long term is always stuck on that aspect, whereas, like, with comedy, I'm just like, I'm gonna go out to these shows, I'm gonna do the shows that I'm doing, I'm gonna keep going at it because I love doing it. I love the people that I've met doing it.
Yeah.
And so it's like I've never really set any long-term goals for comedy other than just get on more shows, get to know more people.
It sounds like that one of your dream goals would be to write comedy for somebody.
Well, not for somebody.
Or like a show, maybe. Or something.
Yeah, because that's the thing I've been working on for longer than I've been doing comedy, is like a script idea for a TV show.
Yeah.
But I had one experience where I was writing for somebody else, and it was just like.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to write for another comedian. Because I feel like I would be like.
Well,
I feel like I would be watching them perform the jokes and be like, I could do this better, or like that's not how it's supposed to be, or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, like.
Yeah, like, this one was more of a book thing, like
like ghostwriting.
Yeah, and it was not a fun experience.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to do that.
No, and then I remember I was reading I think it was either the Wikipedia article or just a genuine article of Rod Sterling, the guy.
Yeah.
And in his early life, he had done like writing for different studios and stuff. And I was reading that, and I'm like, oh, maybe that's something that I could look into doing. And then immediately after that, it had a quote where he was like, yeah, I did that. I hated it. Nobody should ever do that. Believe in your own stuff. Just go for it. I'm like, well, Rod, thanks for the help.
Yeah. I mean, could you imagine if he didn't do Twilight Zone? That would have been such a shame.
Exactly. Like,
that man is a genius.
he really was, man. Like,
he's like, that's like one of like the people that I've always my whole life have like looked up to that guy.
Yep, like he's a fantastic writer as well. Like, is so good,
amazing. Let's see. I asked you that. Who is a famous comedian that you can't stand?
I never really liked D'Elia at all. Like, I can never really get into his comedy or like. Not really a lot of comedians that I hate. It's just like, oh, they're funny, but it's just not my sort of thing. Like, I like Michael Shea, but he's not my favorite. I like Sam Kinison enough, but he's not my favorite. I wouldn't go back to watch any of his specials again after like so many years and stuff like that. Like, but yeah, pretty much the only one I could really think that I just had an immediate like bad reaction to was D'Elia. That's the only one I can really think of.
I'm not a huge fan of his either. Occasionally I'll see something of his and I think that's funny, but like I'm not a giant fan either.
Yeah.
I had something I was going to say about something you just said. I've noticed that there's been like a lot of stand-up specials that I watched like a long time ago, and like I used to think they're like the funniest thing ever. I was like, this is like the funniest shit. And I'll go back and watch it now, and I'm like, no, that wasn't that funny.
Yeah.
And like I don't know if it's just because I've seen funnier things now, so that doesn't seem as funny anymore,
right.
Or like I don't know why it is, but there's a lot of specials like that like I'll go back and watch it now and I'm like, that wasn't as funny as I remember it being.
Okay.
Now, of course I've heard it already too, so that makes it not as funny, but I think it's more than that, because there is some specials that I've heard on and then I'll watch them again and it's still hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Like Mitch Hedberg I can watch a million times and it's still so funny. Like and like Bill Burr is hilarious.
Yeah.
Like every time I see him, he just always makes me laugh, even if I've seen it before. You know. I don't know. I don't know why that is. I wonder what the. I think it is just because maybe you've seen funnier things. Say what you're trying to say.
No, it's all right. But I think it's also like I think it's a mixture of you seeing funnier things and also just like as you get older and as you get introduced to more stuff, like slowly your own particular taste and your own style changes. Like, I think that it's the same with like music, movies, like TV shows. Like music that I listened to when I was in middle school or high school, I listened to it again and I'm just like, oh my god, I listened to that?
Yeah.
What was wrong with me?
You're right. And you know, I've never really thought about comedy in that same way as that, but I guess it is the same, you know, at least in a lot of ways. You're probably right. Because definitely there's bands that I used to listen to, and I used to be like, dude, this is the sickest band, you know, or like, this is like the heaviest band, or whatever. Like, I listen to it now and I'm like, I don't remember this being way better.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah.
Yeah, and like
so maybe.
Yeah, like I'm a wrestling fan, and I remember when I was like a really really young kid, like in the early 2000s, and every I had a point I was going with that. But yeah, like when everything seems real, you're just like, oh, I can really get behind this. Like everything makes sense because I really want to see this guy get hurt. I really want to see this guy beat this guy. But then as you get older, you're like, wait, did I really get excited to watch a guy get his testicles hooked up to a car battery? Like, is that a thing that I was excited to see?
Right. Wrestling has always been something that I could just never get into. I know my dad told me, like, whenever I was little, like, I remember seeing, like, wrestling was on TV maybe or something I was watching or something. Then my dad told me when I was really little, he was like, this isn't real, it's all fake, like, they're just, like, acting or whatever. So then, like, after he told me that, like, I couldn't like it. I was just like, this isn't real. This is like watching, like, a soap opera of two men wrestling, you know, like, it was...
Well, and that is a big problem, is, like, another, going back to what I was saying about, like, as you get older, you realize, wow, that was really stupid. Like, that storyline makes no sense.
Right.
Like, but I always, the thing that got me into it was the storylines and the characters and the gimmicks where you could actually believe, like, okay, I believe that this guy wants to kill this guy. I believe that this guy wants to just destroy this guy's career or ruin him. Like,
I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure that's what pulled in, like, a lot of the fans. You know?
Oh, yeah. And it's one of those things, like, it's still done right occasionally. Like, I remember a couple WrestleManias ago when they were pushing this one guy named Kofi Kingston, and the storyline was that he was getting screwed over every time, and at the same time, a lot of, like, the smart wrestling fans who know about wrestling were getting pissed off about, like, God damn it, just give him the title shot already. And so when he finally won at WrestleMania, even I was, like, jumping out of my seat, like, yes, he did it. And it's like, wow, that magic still does exist somehow.
Right, yeah. And who does WrestleMania now? Because WWF isn't a thing anymore, is it? Or is it?
They changed it to WWE after the Wildlife Fund sued them.
Okay. Because I remember when I was a kid, it was WWF, and then what was the other one?
WCW.
WCW, that's what it was. Yeah. Those are the two, like, the big things or whatever. Are either one of those around anymore? Well, obviously
WCW is dead. Like, WWF bought them out, like,
so did those wrestlers go over to them?
Some of them did. A lot of them just just sit at home and then never heard from again.
Right on. Because I know I still see Sting on stuff sometimes. I don't know if he's still doing it for the same guy or what.
He was with WWE for, like, a little bit, but this was in, like, 2013, 2014, like, well after the point when he should have gone over there. Like.
Yeah. Right on. So...
yeah. Probably change the subject. I could make this like a 3-hour podcast just talking about wrestling.
Yeah, you and Corey need to start a wrestling podcast. You guys just sit and talk about it all night long.
Oh man, like, that'd be the smart comedians. Like, I don't know. Like, we'll figure it
out. So here's a question I love asking everyone. Who is the worst comedian you know personally?
Oh, me.
No, you can't say that. It's a cop-out. I let one person get away with it. I won't let anyone else get away with it.
God damn it, someone's stealing my gimmick.
Everyone tries that.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, I don't want to... Because the worst comedian I've ever seen was someone that was barely a comedian, so I don't really, like, count it. Like,
right.
Because there's this guy that, when I first started off, fantastic piano player, amazing piano player, and he did, like, a lot of, like, old school music, like, old Frank Sinatra tunes, or, like...
Right on, that's cool.
Yeah.
Did he sing also?
Yeah, and it was really cool, like, and he also did what could possibly be called stand-up comedy, where all he did was he would do Abbott and Costello or Monty Python sketches, but formatted as stand-up comedy.
So yeah, that's real bad.
Yeah, it was really bad.